Welcome back to The Collaborative, the podcast for young professionals in Michigan's credit union industry who are ready to connect, grow, and lead the future of cooperative finance. I'm excited to share that The Collaborative is now proudly sponsored by Fuel Michigan. Fuel Michigan is an organization dedicated to fueling, uplifting, and educating leaders across Michigan's credit union movement. With Fuel Michigan's support, we're continuing our mission here to create space for meaningful conversations, professional growth, and the next generation of credit union leaders. I'm your host, Camille, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's get into it. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Raelyn, Szatkowski, Recovery Resolutions Coordinator at Wolverine State Credit Union. Raelyn brings a story of perseverance, growth, and mentorship. As a young professional, she's navigated the demanding balance of working full-time while completing her bachelor degree, a feat that speaks volumes about her dedication and drive. In this episode, we're going to dive into the unique challenges Raelyn has faced as a rising leader in the credit union space, how she stayed grounded and motivated through it all, and why mentorship has been the backbone of her journey. Welcome, Raelyn.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I hope that I said your last name right. Right? I wrote it. Did I?
Yeah, it's good enough either way, right?
Okay, right. I get the same thing. People say, Camille, I don't know how to say your name. It's fine. So talk to me about your journey, like how you got started, all of that stuff. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah, so I actually had a best friend since preschool who his mom was the director of marketing and still is at Alpena Kona Credit Union. And I had essentially went off to college and life threw me a couple of curveballs and I made it through the first semester and had to come home.
Oh.
And she had found out at our local Alpena FFA alumni chapter meeting and immediately was like, I have an opportunity for you. Let's see how it goes. And I got my first job at Alpena Laguna's call center. And from there, learned a ton right off the bat. I feel like at that credit union especially, the call center is the hub of all knowledge and information. You know absolutely everything that's going on, new products and services. You're honestly at that time, you were the only person that really had a good idea of the entire field of membership. We talked to the same people, that kind of thing. So that's where my credit union journey started. And then through my mentorship with the CEO and COO at the credit union, back then I did a ton of shadowing just to see about Angie and Don's journey throughout the credit union industry. And we reached a point in my career and there that Don kind of led me on a path to, unfortunately, the way that it goes in Northern Michigan is people enter their job and they stay for 40 plus years. So with how fast I was growing, there was no room for me to take on a management position without already having experience. So from there, he said, if you want to spread your wings and grow with us even more, you'll have to go somewhere else, grab some new knowledge, and maybe you can go back to school. And so I did exactly that. I started my associate's degree back when I worked there in 2018. Then I got a different position as an office manager at a local electrical company, and I worked there for almost 3 years. Tools and knowledge that I needed to move forward, and started as the Recovery Resolutions Coordinator at Wolverine State Credit Union. So I'd like to think that I started at a credit union just because it was easy and convenient. But then even amongst some of my own struggles and beliefs, I stayed because the entire essence of being a credit union employee is caring about people. And it has this amazing way of, even if you're a compliance officer, you get to deal with so many good volunteer options in the community, and you get the best of both worlds, no matter what position you're sitting in.
I agree to that. I think a lot of us have kind of fell into the industry just because I needed something convenient. I needed a second job, and that's how I started. I don't think a lot of people have grown up saying, I'm going to be in a credit union, but like it's been great regardless.
Yeah, I think until you actually immerse yourself in the credit union industry, you have no idea the impact that they're making or even the versatile career options that they're creating for individuals. Especially within the past couple of years, a ton of nonprofit jobs have kind of emerged within our field, where they're definitely dedicating their time to community engagement more than they ever have and really investing in those individuals. Whereas those are temp jobs elsewhere, they're grant funded.
Yeah.
So
I love that you started at Alpena Alcona. That was my first credit union when I was a kid, and that they recognized your growth and said, okay, we can't help you, but let's let you grow. That to me speaks volumes.
And they are great. And they're
They
doing
are.
great things too.
They are. I have a huge respect for them altogether because I grew up around the area when I was a kid. I spent my summers up at Hubbard Lake. And so I've seen them grow over the years, and I think it's really awesome what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of your goals moving forward?
So I actually, it's kind of ambitious, and I actually didn't want to say it on here, but
You don't have to, but for ambition.
so I think I've always kind of been the kind of person to really shoot high. And I've told
Mhm.
people for the last 2 years with the growth that I've pursued and then succeeded at, that I think ultimately I want to be a CEO of a credit union one day.
I think you'd rock it.
Yeah. I just love the versatile idea of, if you've talked to anybody even throughout Fuel and the amount of CEOs that we've heard from, everyone has a different path. Like, it's not cookie cutter, and it doesn't matter the department that you came from. I mean, Carrie from Members First used to be the head of the marketing department. And
Yeah.
Don here at Alpine Algona, he genuinely was compliance and BSA, and everybody's journey looks different, and somehow each and every one of them are succeeding all on their own.
I think ambition suits you, and I think
Yeah.
that you would be amazing at it. So I'm gonna cheer you on the whole time. I think you've got it. I think you've got it, girl.
Thank you.
As a young professional, what are challenges that you face? Because I know, like personally on mine, it's been a big challenge of mine has been people underestimating, and that's been kind of interesting to navigate. So have you faced that, or what other challenges have you faced? How do you navigate those?
Yeah, so definitely from the perspective of being a part of a credit union from Northern Michigan, where membership is hard. Like, everyone is working towards convincing the same group of people. There isn't a
Mhm.
lot of growth unless you're moving into a different community, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of programs are not created here like they are at other credit unions that service billions of people.
Yeah,
So
I forget about it because, like, I'm originally from Flint. I spent my childhood up at Hubbard Lake, and now I live on the west side, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, we're the same area. And when I went to Flint last weekend, it was like credit union after credit union after credit union. I was like, I forgot how many are.
yeah. So I think, especially in Northern Michigan, with the lack of programs that are automatically created just within your credit union, such as some credit unions have advocacy groups or
Mm.
even just education and training committees that ultimately look at what the credit union is striving to become. We don't have those. So when you have fresh ideas that you're bringing to the table, who do you take them to? How do you get people to buy into what other credit unions are doing? Or even if you're emerging into a part of the credit union industry that hasn't been navigated before. So, definitely those are like the ground base, because when I entered the credit union industry, there was nothing like that. You didn't necessarily know who to take your ideas to or how to get
Mm.
involved in a different way. And that's what they're looking for in young leaders, is essentially like bringing new ideas to the table that you already have the outline for, and they just have to see if it's effective at that point. So definitely laying the line of like, can we create a program where 3 people from the team of management oversees this and takes a look to see what benefits this might have? Because ultimately, when there's only a team of 6 managing an entire organization, they don't have time either to develop new ideas. So there has to be a platform, one. Definitely with all of the growth that I've gone through in the last year, I think it is hard to be a goal setter and be driven, but have no direction when you're looking for feedback or you reach a goal and you have to create new ones. Like, I
Mm.
finished my bachelor's degree in June, automatically needed a goal to set forth on, and committed to my master's degree. And oftentimes when I tell people that, they're kind of like, well, do you know where you're going? And I said, no, but I'm going to figure it out along the way.
No, but I got a degree, so I got it.
Yeah. So I don't know the easy answer to actually having people buy into you. That's definitely a struggle that I have had in the last 4 months, of finding buy-in from individuals to send you somewhere else, if that makes sense. So
Oh, it
it's
does.
definitely, you have to advocate for yourself though.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I
Yeah.
feel
I feel that can be really hard, especially for people who have never done that for themselves and then are finally speaking up for themselves and like
Right.
having to say, "Hey, I can do this. I need you to have some trust in me,"
Yeah.
and finding that space. What do you think credit unions can do for young professionals to help support us other than like how, I don't know, finding buy-in is hard, but like how else can they help support us?
So I think honestly, it would just be a matter of creating a space for young professionals or even top to bottom positions to actually collaborate together. So whether
Mhm.
that's bringing in diverse different people into ALCO sessions. Do you know what that is?
Yes,
Okay, I didn't. Some people call
I
it
do.
something. So, I mean, those people determine rates, specials, marketing schemes, and have different perspectives of people who are meeting with members face to face or over the phone every day versus a CEO. It's drastically different.
Oh, 100%.
We had a conversation last week actually about Christmas loans and how it's completely psychological to members. Like, it doesn't matter if you offer them a personal loan, right? It's just, are you offering a Christmas loan this year?
Oh yeah, we have a loan that we keep all year round, but market it specifically for Christmas because
Right.
they don't, it 100% is psychological.
Yeah. Members just want a Christmas loan.
I think bringing in the younger people too as well, because we all get stuck in our ways and giving that fresh perspective.
Well, and also, that's the thing. We just recently have a teller line full of brand new people to the credit union industry. They're all very young. And that's actually the target group that people are very concerned about opening accounts because we don't
Mm.
have the grasp on what they're doing right now or even what they're interested in. So it's cool to immerse them in those conversations because how do we attract those types of membership?
Yeah, that's always like, I feel like that's going to be the question 100 years down the road is how do we get like the younger ones and the younger ones? And I don't know, we'll see how that goes. What was it like earning your master's, working full time, being active in fuel because you are very active in fuel. You're pretty much at every single event. And then I'm going to see you at Hike the Hill in a couple weeks. So what was it like, and how did you balance it the best you could?
Yeah, so last year and this year, because a lot of my terms are kind of a balance of both
Mhm.
years when you accept them, I sat on 9 nonprofit boards in the last year. I also was combating that with getting my bachelor's degree and then moved on to my master's. And I can honestly say that I made a lot of sacrifices.
I'm
Um,
exhausted hearing about that. 9?
yeah, so it actually started in high school. I actually got diagnosed when I was 4 years old with cancer. And it's been something that I have struggled with my entire life, even now. And I think the essence of like wanting to give back was to give to those who gave to my family during that time period. So in return, it grew. In high school, I joined something called YVC with the youth corps and did a ton of volunteering in high school. And when I came home, that is a lot of where my beliefs aligned from college was that I really wanted a job that kind of met both of those in the middle, which is where credit unions really fit in. Well, balancing all of those together is a lot of it kind of fuels my efforts in recovery resolutions even of like you have to learn how to be very empathetic in life and not just in life, but that's what credit unions are about is standing on a pedestal that no one feels intimidated by you, where you're always creating an environment where people feel comfortable to come for you for financial advice, financial struggles, and ultimately, we're the pillar of that because we also fuel our communities and all of those programs that support your community. So I think my volunteerism and pursuing a career that is within leadership of some sort is just all about giving back to those who give to you. And if there isn't another generation who steps up to continue that process, it feels together, right?
Yeah. I participate in a bunch of like with Harbor Lake and I've done it kind of outside, but like not to the degree you have. And that's amazing that that is your perspective of like give back.
And I don't want to say that everyone should take on 9 boards.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
I did give up a lot to do that. Like there are many things where my career came first and that was a part of that.
Yeah.
All of the development that I've achieved through that and the experience that I can't gain anywhere else, unfortunately, unless I take a different career, right? I have actual stake in each one of those. Their success is my success. And I think through that, something really important to remember is that as long as you even just commit to one thing, that determines your entire future. And unfortunately, in my case, it's 9, and they fuel my own passion, you know? So just make a difference. That's all I'm telling you.
Be, be a good person and make a difference somehow.
Right.
I always say that I try to be not necessarily a good person because that can be subjective, but I try to be a kind person. And that to me is what it's about. And that I feel like credit unions have really amplified it and helped me find my voice in wanting to do that. And I think their credit unions as a whole are very well, we're people helping people anyways. What educational opportunities have you had within the credit union other than, going to school? What other ones have you had? Do you think or wish that we had more or different ones or what? I know you got I don't know, I can't remember the new one, but it's the financial. Is that what that was?
Yeah, so I was a part of it was like a smaller offering directly through the MCUL, I'm pretty sure, for the Certified Credit Union Financial Counselor
Yes.
designation. So I have that. And then I also, last year, Q's offered to all of Fuel Young Professionals
Mhm.
the Q's Essential Leadership Program. So I've been a part of both of those. And then I also have attended plenty of conferences that, as much as people don't necessarily think that that's educational, I think
It
I've
is.
taken more from those because you immerse yourself in these really tough conversations that you're having with professionals all over the state.
Yeah.
So I attended the Future Leadership Summit or Future Summit, I think is what it's called. That was last year.
Oh, yeah,
It was
ACE.
no
Oh,
Q.
the Q's, the Future
Mhm.
Summit. Yes.
Yes. And then I did go to ACE and then various things in between there. But I think that is probably the most influential is if you're a part of any credit union, you definitely have to be talking one-on-one with your CEO or training and education coordinator to definitely see if there's options and what's available to your credit union. Because I don't think there is anything more impactful than being able to spend even just one day at a conference and navigate being alone. So that
Yeah.
first year that I was a part of Fuel, I kind of just took it full force and I went to everything by myself. And it forced me to have tough conversations and meet new people and, get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh. Last year, I had somebody every single time with me. And for Hike the Hill, I'm going completely alone. And I was like, oh, I've done it all so far.
Right.
So, like, the fact that you've done it alone, girl. What was Q's Essential Leadership? What was that like? Because they announced it and I really wanted to be part of it. But I was in the middle of getting my CUCE certification and I had to decide, did I want to take this on?
Oh, it was a ton of collaboration at times you even sat down and it felt as though you were making decisions on real life problems with different diverse people at different credit unions. So it combined me with IT and someone from compliance at Members First. And you really take a look at who you are as a leader, who you want to be, and then in return, you're sharing that with the rest of the group on how you would handle a certain situation. So it definitely delves into real life scenarios that you need to handle as a management team and then left you with those skills at the very end. They also have the Emerge program, which would have happened after if I had re-upped. That also sends you on this journey of like creating a new product and showing essentially where you would like this product to end in the credit union industry.
I hope they bring those back
Yeah,
or at least the Essential Leadership, because it looked and sounded like a really good opportunity.
it is really good. Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody starting out, especially those who just kind of fumbled into it like we did?
Maybe go alone. That might actually be my advice.
I think that's solid advice, though. Get out of your comfort zone because,
Yeah, because my story is backwards from yours, like you started with someone. I met all those amazing people right off the bat, including you, because I went alone. Otherwise, you're constantly sitting at, like, you use that person that you're with as a crutch. And even at, like, the ACE, to be by yourself, the only person from Northern Michigan, it definitely set me on a different path to having conversations with people that I had never met before, even at ACE, which is 2 years into my fuel journey, to really figure out what other people are doing in their industry and share about my own story of just trying to persevere as a young professional at only 25 and where I'm going and where I want to be. And they honestly, at bigger credit unions, that is the biggest differentiator that I want people to take away is when you sit at a small credit union, there is so much that the blinders are on that you have no idea what is happening out there. So to even just learn about new products and services that they've been working on for years, like AI, unless I had gone to an actual conference or we don't care about it.
Yeah.
An older member base, that is not something they will ever use or probably ever be interested in.
So 100%. We have an
So-
older member base and
Right. So
I'm
just
trying
try
to
it.
get them in. Yeah. I mean, go alone to everything. Just go alone.
Sit with the people who by themselves as well.
I mean, that's the way to do it. Find
was-
somebody, break the ice, and then you guys can be conference buddies, and it's great.
Yeah, probably. So last year, I actually had the opportunity to go to America's Credit Union's bankruptcy school, and it was all the way in California, and I was by myself. The week before that, I actually got into a minor mishap where I had tore a tendon in my left foot. So not only was I going alone, I also was injured.
Oh no.
And it was an adventure. So immersing myself in people that I had no connections to whatsoever, that was my very, very first time across the world by myself, just trying to figure it out, And I
feel-
actually sat down at breakfast that first morning, and it was probably like a solid half an hour, and no one sat down with me. And I remember thinking to myself, this is so scary, knowing that maybe you're the person who's on the flag football team who will get picked last. But I promise you, it did get better. Like, that was the first and last time that ever happened to me.
If I'm alone, because like I've always had somebody go to conferences with me, but I've had different sessions, like the MCUL's, the U conference for the marketing, compliance, and lending. Last year, I got thrown into it. My supervisor was supposed to attend. She had a family emergency, and they said, "Hey, you're going to go in 2 days." Basically, and I said, "Okay, it's my second ever conference. It's fine." And I had a coworker there, but she had different sessions, and so I purposely went to the tables that had like one or two people to them because I was like, "They're alone like me. Let's be friends."
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually how you create these random memories and connections.
Yep.
I met someone named Davana there who he bugs me every morning after that. They actually ended up pushing me around in a wheelchair. They
That's so
wanted
nice
to
of
make sure
them.
I felt included, and I still talk to Davana every day.
Love that.
So genuinely, I think that is like no matter what, get comfortable with the uncomfortable because the first time you try it, you realize that it's either fail or succeed. And at the end of the day, by putting yourself out there, you're at least trying to succeed.
And if you fail, you just get up and dust it off and keep going.
Right? That's what life is, right? 30 failures and 1 success.
Pretty much. Yep.
Usually the success is always worth it.
How do you think we should, or not necessarily how they should, but how do you think, I don't like how that thinks in my brain. Thinks in my brain. Yeah, that's where I'm at today. How do you envision, there we go, envision bridging the gap between leadership and emerging talents? Because there is kind of a gap there, especially in, I feel, larger credit unions, possibly. I feel like I'm in a smaller credit union, so they can kind of see all of it more, but I don't know. What do you think about that? And how do you think we can bridge that?
So I still feel, which again, like if you diversify between large credit unions and small, there's a huge gap in just the idea of even what fuel is. So I actually did a presentation on President's Day just about who we are in the credit union movement and how we affect that. But overall, there is this huge gap in the idea of like what fuel actually is and the educational value that it holds to those employees. Which is also where you find, like, how do you get buy-in from people? Well, first, you really have to explain to them what you're actually doing. Like, what impact has fuel taken on your career, and where can you apply that in your career as you move forward with our credit union? And like I said earlier, sometimes it's not It's not you. And they do have buy-in for you. But in return, there is no space for you, unfortunately. So then you have to tell yourself, is it about staying here? Do I want to stay here? Or is there growth for me somewhere else that it might be available right now? So that is the first. And then the next is actually, I think there's a lot of value in something that I call like a leadership pipeline program. It'd be like a rotational experience that exposes not only young professionals, but people already emerged in the credit union industry to actually take a leap into each one of those departments to really understand hands-on exposure
Yeah.
about collaboration within the credit union movement. So like oftentimes, I mean, we do things because that's the way we've always done them. But when you take a young mind or a new mind in general and plummet them into that, in return, the blinders are off. So you have this huge opportunity to see what new work can be done, but also what can stay the same, what has always been done. So I think that is, yeah,
I hate that excuse. That's how we've always done it. Okay, and
it's not working.
sometimes it works. However, sometimes you change it up a little.
And it doesn't even have to be broken for change to occur. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
sometimes there
100%.
just is a better way.
I'm kind of known for that. It's like, why do we do it this way? Is there a reason? Because I got a better idea. About, I know explaining what fuel is and like getting that buy-in. At Hack the Pub this year, it was Journey CEO. So Jeff Tusler, I can never say his last name, but he sat down with Justin, Harbor Lake CEO, and then my two coworkers, and he specifically asked the three of us, like, what is Justin's return on investment of sending you to fuel? And I think that was a really good way to ask it and allow us to be like, this is what I gained. It's not just we're just meeting for funsies or whatever. We're actually learning things. We're learning about advocacy. We're learning about professional development and networking and going to these things. And we had the Fuel Good Week this year. Like it's not just, you're not just sending me to putz around one day a quarter.
And do you think that's almost the funny part? Because when someone asked that at our credit union on President's Day, my response to that was there isn't a direct one. And it actually has more to do with a return on employee culture being improved, or the idea that you're getting employees who might have just saw this as a job and it turns into a career. You'll oftentimes, for many of us, is a new way to find inspiration in our career field. So I don't know that there is just a direct ROA on this.
There really isn't. I think it also depends on the person themselves.
Right.
It just depends on like what I get from it is not the same as what you get for whatever. Like it's always going to be different. So it was interesting to see my two other coworkers and I have different answers for the same question in that little area. It was interesting. You had said earlier mentorship played a big role. You had mentors at Alpena, Alcona area. Can you go a little more in depth on that? How did that really help shape you in your professional development?
Yeah, so that was probably around the time when mentorship there, at least, was not widely known. Like it was just emerging at the credit union at the time. And I had just really dove into starting my financial counseling designation because that's how you turned into a member info rep too, and was really looking for ways to grow faster and figure out where I actually wanted to be. So it first started with Don, and then we sat down and I learned about his credit union journey and the parts that he really loved and the parts that maybe he doesn't really love every day. And then that conversation was directed towards, okay, what do you want to do? Which is how I started my mentorship with Angie Szatkowski, who I'm not related to, but people think so. She sat in the COO position and still does. And I actually shadowed her for probably almost 2 months. I think it was like once a week. Yeah, I did. Yeah. And we really took a look at just her overall outlook on operations and how things rolled at the credit union at that time. And looked at essentially if I knew what my leadership style was back then, how do people learn the best? How do you share information that directly impacts compliance and regulations? And how do people really grasp that the best? And ultimately, what I learned out of that was there's not. Like, you can do it always. And at the end of the day, even if you do everything, sometimes there will be people who just don't learn any of the ways that you provided. And also, at the end of the day, too, can you as a company afford to go after every single way that people learn best? So sometimes it's also about navigating what happens when nothing is effective. And just the idea that those are the problems that leaders are actually struggling with. It's not how do we make money on e-statements or that kind of thing. It's genuinely how do I make this effective for employees to learn? So the questions that cannot be answered. So that's what really intrigued me about essentially finding a larger place in either project development or operations. That would have been my next step had I stayed. But yeah, it really set me on this path to learn more and even investigate what doesn't already exist. So
Yeah, that's the education part of it. Or do you have the time, the resources, the money to be able to give everybody this learning?
yeah, and I think oftentimes in mentorship, especially what you just said, is that you're not thinking about the bigger picture immediately when someone hands you a problem or all
Yeah.
of the hands that it's going to take to actually address the problem at hand. So, like, does marketing need to be involved in this? Is this accounting question? Is this really compliance? It just goes to show that initially you don't have any idea where to start, but this is where we are.
And this is where we're going, hopefully. If you could implement an initiative to empower young professionals in the credit union industry, what would it be?
So I kind of hinted at that earlier, but it is the leadership pipeline program. I have never been a teller. And I
Really?
actually think those are the people who should be paid the most.
That's not wrong. You are not wrong.
They have
Nothing
a
was
really
more
hard job.
challenging. No, my job is challenging, but being a teller,
Yeah, something about even if you compare that to retail, man, they have a lot of things thrown at them in a day. And
hmm
they just like being a call center person. I mean, you're not right in front of someone, but you're their direct communication and you have to know everything. And if you don't, they'll call you on it.
100% they'll call you out on it. And they'll make you not feel very great about yourself sometimes. And you're just like, great, cool.
But yeah, we even last year gained a member of our team, our HR director, who had never been in the credit union industry whatsoever when she stepped in. And I think it is very vital to be a part of every single part of the credit union before you can really manage anybody, not just in HR, but in general, to get the full picture of like the impact that we're making, the job that you're doing, and then also to understand from a member's side of like, where are we going as a credit union? So the idea of doing like a rotational program within your credit union, I know someone else calls it, I found out a couple weeks ago, I think it's called like a take five. So once a month, you rotate into a different position in the credit union and you shadow that person to really understand their role. And that's kind of the same thing of the leadership pipeline program. It's just really once a month, you get to venture into a new position, whether that's to have a greater understanding of what someone at the bottom does throughout the day, or even a greater understanding of where you want to go in the credit union industry. So maybe you're a teller and you'd like to enter the operations side of the credit union or even compliance. What does that mean and what does a regular day look like to that person? And not only, no matter which way you go, whether that's a teller becoming one of those positions, you're investing in your own employees and also creating a better understanding of how the credit union works for that employee who potentially is just answering the phone and explaining to members and being transparent.
I think even shadowing each other and rotating, even if you're not doing it to find your next step in the credit union journey, I think it is a key role towards empathy of your coworkers, because I know a lot of people are so like, well, my job is the most important, or accounting is the most important, or compliance. Like, at the end of the day, we're all working towards the same goal. And
Right.
I feel like shadowing and getting to know what somebody else does on their daily kind of gives you a little bit more empathy towards them.
And I think even like we had teams brought to the credit union here almost 3 years ago. And prior to that, communication was very different. And I think out of everything we just talked about for the next question, that is the most important, is communicating as a team and understanding the decisions that people are making, and maybe even towards, if you guys do Clifton Strengths, that is why people are the way that they are. So like if you were to say like, I don't thrive in large groups, I work one-on-one with someone or whatever it may be, that's you understanding how someone is, what strengths you need to have to thrive in that role as well. So it plays a lot, not in just culture, but also how you interact with one another.
Teams definitely changed how everyone works. We switched from Teams over to Zoom for everything, so it's all together. But it's still, it has, I don't, honestly, I don't remember what it was like working without it. Like, because it's so instant. And also, I'm a millennial and I'm the child of AIM and MSN Messenger and all that. So it was like, it was really easy for me to get into, but it definitely kind of just navigated us completely away from what we were used to.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like COVID did a really good job at that. And then all of these solutions like Zoom and now Skype is no longer existing, which is wild. When I watch an old TV show, an older one, and I Skyped with them, and I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing. It's no longer there. We see how it changes. And I think that would be great. I think a lot of young professionals, especially being able to sit down with leadership or exec, and then vice versa, have exec hang out with the younger people, or not necessarily younger, but like the colors or like, not the, like the people who are just starting, have them sit down and see what it's like. If I don't know if you've ever seen your CEO on the teller line, but I have once, and it was kind of hilarious and great. And he was such a good sport about it. And it's interesting to see. And I think that a lot of us could benefit from seeing that.
Well, and I think the one eye opener is I had a one-on-one team conversation with my supervisor a couple weeks ago, and like someone asked him randomly, what do you do all day? Because it looks like you do nothing. It's just like, how many times a week do you walk by someone and think to yourself, like, what are they doing? Like, it looks like nothing. And that's kind of where my pipeline program sparked, is because you have no idea. I mean, as a collections individual, I'm scrolling through my phone, checking what Susan King is doing.
See if you can find a photo of her car so you can repo it.
Right. Does she post her job online? Like, I'm sure part of my job looks like I'm doing nothing.
But it really is. When I'm in the office one day a week, and I always feel weird if I'm checking my phone and people are walking by and I'm literally just checking a text on my phone, and I'm like, I swear to God, there's like 3 Excel sheets and like 10 emails and 20, like I'm doing something. I'm just taking like a 5-second break.
Right. So it's really understanding the core components of what someone does all day long. And no, it's not nothing.
No, I just hang out here for 8 hours with my feet on the desk, twiddling my thumbs.
But yeah.
With that, we've kind of touched on teams, but what else excites you about Cuddy, the movement? What?
Kind of excited for the idea of maybe even expanding on innovation, but also heart working together. So I think we need to stay true to who we've always been. I heard a story earlier this year about the CEO of a credit union finding out about a member who was young, looking just to speak with somebody about getting a loan, essentially. And when you entered their lobby at that point in time, you were greeted by a wall with an iPad in front of it. So this is right after COVID.
Makes my eye twitch.
Yeah, there was no opportunity for this poor high schooler to come in and talk to somebody right then and there. And so when he finally got an appointment with the loan officer to meet in person, he explained that struggle. And that essentially got passed along to the top of just like, I needed to create a relationship with someone to know what I needed to do to get my first car. And that's what we're all about, right? You're supposed to be able to reach out to us like we're a friend and get guidance from us when you're making financial decisions. It's supposed to be special, right? And I like to think that that's what's different about us than a bank, is that you get to talk to people that you know, and someone's there for you when you need them right in person. Even if you don't need to see them in person, it adds that different human level of interaction.
That's why I love going to the office on Tuesdays, is I get to interact with my coworkers, and I get to see the members that, were my favorite when I was at MSR. I get to see them and get hugs from random members that I haven't seen in a year or two.
Yeah. So essentially, after that, the CEO took a sledgehammer to the wall that was put up during COVID.
Love it.
Your teller line. And yeah, they put teller stations back up, and you're able to walk into that branch location now and see
Love
smiling faces
it.
again. And I think I tell you that story not to make fun of them, but actually to say that even though innovation is something that we're all focused on, somewhere in there we have to remember who we are, right? And that's people helping people. And if you can't walk in and have an interaction with an individual, we're not helping you anymore. And we no longer have that core component that we absolutely used to have in order to provide great membership service. So I think it's going to be this next era of figuring out where innovation can be used the most, and ultimately also where it doesn't belong.
Nobody ever thinks about where it doesn't belong. It's always where it does belong. So that's a good thing to think on. And finally, the final question that I'm asking everyone, I hope I've remembered to ask everyone. I'm a little space cadet with the ADHD sometimes. What is one story, or is there a specific event that has happened in your journey that you've just been like, yeah, this is why I do it. This is why I'm here. This is why I love credit unions. Or
Yeah,
two,
so
or three, or four, or five, however many.
we'll keep it to one. But this year, sitting in a collections role has been extremely more difficult than even in a regular year. There's been so many programs and services that have been cut from obviously the government's funding
Yeah.
and budget even, that unfortunately when people come in my door, I no longer can just give them the resources that they need to fix their problem. There is no more rental assistance. There's nothing. I'm going to be really honest. So in the last 2 months, my job has become increasingly frustrating because unfortunately there's nothing the credit union can do to assist you. And there's also nowhere that I can send you other than basic things like we can get you a warm meal at the soup kitchen tonight or
Yeah.
something along those lines. So 2 months ago, I sat down with a member who had recently just lost her job. She brought her son in because she no longer has daycare because she can't pay for it. And she had a credit card with us and a vehicle loan. And she said, right now, I cannot lose my vehicle. It is the only thing that I have. And ultimately, she was having a really hard time finding a job. And this will probably be the only time that I brag about my connections about being on boards because I essentially helped her write a resume and helped her turn those into a few different companies. And although this is not my job, at the end of the day, we're supposed to help people in a manner that helps the credit union. So her finding a job was of the essence, not only to feed her, but to pay her loans. So after 2 weeks, that didn't work. And I resorted to actually calling some of my own connections and saying, this person is of value. And although I knew that that might backfire on me later, I had faith in her, faith that she'd show up, faith that she'd get a job, and ultimately set her on a path to success. So she actually ended up getting one of those interviews and she got the job. And 2 weeks later, she came in when she got her first paycheck, made a payment on her loan. And I don't think it'll be something that I'll ever forget because she sat down and she said, I don't have anything to give you. I don't have any money to give you, but she said, what I can give you is a hug because she said, you absolutely changed my life.
Oh,
And I think
I'm
in
gonna
the
cry.
season of hardship, yeah, I mean, and the one thing that I've taught myself these last 3 years sitting in a collections role is that honestly, we are all one bad moment away from losing everything and being in the same position that they are in, especially right now.
Yeah, especially with everything, funding being cut, a government shutdown, prices rising. Like it's
Hard. And how can you
yeah.
not empathize with them when at the end of the day, everyone here is getting their paycheck too and saying, I don't know what I'm going to pay first. So I think that is one, the most humbling thing. Two, the one thing I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. And my favorite moment, knowing that I get to work here and help people, even if that means it doesn't directly reflect my job today.
And how awesome is it that she came in to talk to you about not losing her car? And not only were you able to assure her that she wasn't going to, you helped her write a flippin' resume, which is absolutely amazing. Like that was incredible of you. And that just, yeah, I've got tears in my eyes now. Thank you. But I love it. That to me is definitely credit union stories. And I couldn't imagine working in collections. So kudos to you and everybody else who works in collections because I would not have the heart.
I promise you, everyone has it within them. when I first took this role, actually. That was my main idea, was like, we need to get down in the depths of like, what is empathy actually, and how do people
Yeah.
deserve to be treated even at their worst? It teaches you so much conflict resolution, it's not even funny.
I would not expect anything less because a lot of people feel like, I mean, I've been in the position where I've had to call like my mortgage company and make an arrangement because, an emergency car repair.
Right.
And it's embarrassing to have to call the people that you've promised to pay and be like, so I need to make an arrangement. And so definitely having the empathy and helping them. And like when I was a teller and people would come in and say, I don't know if I can make this payment. Okay, just communicate with us. I feel like
Right.
that's a big thing with credit unions. As long as you communicate with them, like us, we'll allow you to have your, like, if you're like months behind on a payment and you're getting direct deposit, as long as you're putting something towards the payment, we'll let you use the rest of the services. You just have to talk to us. And I think that's a big thing that sometimes people don't want to do is we want to bury our head in the sand like an ostrich and avoid it.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I really sat with this entire time is be the person that people would want to sit with at a table every single day. So if I don't like who I am, are other people going to want to sit with me? And
I like that.
Yeah. Why would people join you, right?
Right person, show them what you're doing, have that empathy, and then you won't be sitting alone at the table. Love it. All right. Well, our time is up. Thank you so much for joining me and having this good conversation. I always love talking to you and seeing you at Fuel. So I was really
It'll be
glad you
so
said
good
that.
to follow up with you.
Yes.
at
And then I'll
the
see
Hill.
you. I know.
Yeah,
I'm excited and nervous, but mostly excited.
it'll be great.
Nervous because I know downtown parking in Lansing is ugh. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll figure it out. But I'll definitely I'll honestly I'll probably end up sitting at your table.
Well, I'll look forward to it.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of your day and thank you again.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.